In today's video, I'm going to be breaking down which type of salt is best on the carnivore diet. For years, I never thought twice about the type of salt I used. I thought that they were basically all the same, but it turns out I was incredibly mistaken. And for some individuals, not using the right type of salt may actually be ruining your results. There are some key differences between the different types of salts that may actually be having an impact on you. It's not just about flavor. In fact, many are contaminated with microplastics. Some have sneaky added ingredients, and some are even bleached. And then on the other end of the spectrum, some contain significantly more of the essential minerals such as magnesium and potassium. In this video, we're going to be doing a complete breakdown on each type of salt. We're going to look at the bad aspects of each, the good aspects of each, and at the end, I'm going to do a side-by-side mineral comparison. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly what type of salt is best for you and what types of salt you need to avoid. So what even is salt? Well, salt's an electrolyte. An electrolyte is classified as a substance that has a charge when dissolved in water. Many people think that salt and sodium are the same thing, when in reality salt is a combination of two electrolytes, sodium and chloride. Now in table salt, which we'll get to shortly, this makes up 100% of the makeup of salt. But in other types of salt, such as Redmond's real salt or Himalayan salt, there's actually minerals found in the salt because they're not refined. Now, not having enough salt, or any electrolyte for that matter, can present many problems to us. First, it can destroy our mood. You'll have terrible brain fog, low energy, as well as cramps. Now, we can get sufficient quantities of every other electrolyte as long as we're eating enough fatty meat. However, salt can be a bit of a problem, especially when you're starting the carnivore diet. The reason being that when you enter a low carbohydrate state, which the carnivore diet is, you produce less insulin. Now, insulin is the hormone that brings our blood sugar back down. So remember, when we're eating carbohydrates, our blood sugar spikes massively, and then insulin elevates to bring this blood sugar back down. But now because we've removed carbohydrates, we have a lot less insulin. Now, insulin actually helps the kidneys retain electrolytes. So when we start the carnivore diet and we enter this low carbohydrate state, some people actually become deficient in sodium, as well as the fact that many people who eat ultra-processed foods, these foods are very high in sodium. So they remove these foods and then they eat their steaks with a normal amount of salt, and it just leads to problems. So when you first start the carnivore diet, you need to actually add way more salt to your steak than you typically would. Now at the start, this may seem like an extreme amount. When I first started the carnivore diet, people were concerned about how much salt I was putting on. But what happens is that over time, as your body gets used to this low carbohydrate state, you start needing less and less salt. And because your body is incredibly intelligent, it does this intuitively. The general rule for salt is to go on taste. So when you first start carnivore, a lot of salt will taste incredible. And the longer you're on carnivore, the less salt you'll want on your meat. In fact, some people find that after a year or so on carnivore, they don't even want to put salt on their meat. So just go by taste, and remember, if it tastes good, that's how much salt your body wants. Now this right here makes the type of salt you're using even more important, as you need extra amounts of it. So let's look at the different types of salts. First up, we have sea salt. Now this is just your regular salt that you'll see in the supermarket. It's just regular salt from the ocean. Now this is what most people use, but there are some serious issues with this type of salt. The first being that it's very high in microplastics. The oceans nowadays have become incredibly contaminated. So what they end up finding is that 90% of salt contains these microplastics, which we know are incredibly harmful for us. I mean, you can think about it logically. If you're eating plastic, is that going to be good for you? But we do see it demonstrated. These things do cause inflammation. And so for people with serious autoimmune conditions, or even anxiety, these things are going to be problematic. Remember, when our cells become inflamed, in particular the mitochondria, it can cause anxiety. For a long time, it was believed that the role of the mitochondria in the cell was only to produce our energy. But what they've found nowadays is that it's actually responsible for the first step of building many of the hormones that make us feel good, such as dopamine and serotonin. So when you consume the salt with the microplastics in it, it can actually affect your mood by causing the cellular inflammation. Now, to make matters worse, sometimes they add bleach to the salt to make it look more appealing, as well as the fact that they very sneakily add added ingredients, such as anti-caking agents, which prevents it from clumping together, as well as dextrose, which is a carbohydrate powder. So as we can clearly see, table salt is definitely not a good option. Next up, let's look at pink Himalayan salt, which unlike sea salt, it does not come from the sea. It actually comes from the Himalayan mountains in Pakistan. Now with pink Himalayan sea salt, what they don't do is remove the minerals like they do with traditional sea salt. And they also don't bleach it. But what is problematic is that they actually outsource their salt to other companies. Unlike Redmond's, which we'll get to shortly, they do not package, mine, and sell their salt. They actually outsource it to third-party companies. Now, this is incredibly problematic because they have no control over what these third parties do with the salt. And so what ends up happening is that they can add other ingredients. So it's definitely a better option, but not the best. Then we have Celtic sea salt, which you probably know for its light grey complexion.
Hey guys, it's me again. I wanted to let you all know that I've written an ebook which is a complete beginner's guide on the carnivore diet. It's only 17 pages long and it covers everything you need to know. So whether you want to refresh your knowledge or you're a beginner who's looking to get onto the carnivore diet and doesn't know where to start, this one's for you. All you have to do is head down to the description of this video, click the top link, and I'll send it to you for free. And on top of that, I'll send you a couple emails each week with some bonus tips I have regarding the carnivore diet. And the best part is that there's no catch. It's literally all for free. So go down to the description to claim your free copy now. Anyway, back to the video.
Now, as the name suggests, Celtic sea salt is from the sea. What they do is they let the water come in, and they're these specially designed harvesting beds where they retain some of the water in these sort of mini pools, and they extract the salt using their unique processes that way. This salt has a water content of roughly 15%, which is why it has that distinct colour and texture. Even though Celtic sea salt is only handled by Celtic, it does still come from the sea. Now the thing is, a lot of these salt companies claim they do internal testing which shows that the levels of microplastic are safe, but because it comes from the sea, it's highly likely that they will still be there, at least to some degree. So again, due to the fact that it's less processed than table salt, it's definitely a better option, but again, not the best in my opinion. And finally, we have Redmond's real salt, which, like the Himalayan salt, it is from a mountain, but not in Pakistan, it is from America. It is sourced in Redmond salt mine, which is in the state of Utah. Now this mine is 9 meters underground, so it's protected from all environmental contaminants. Like the pink Himalayan salt, they don't remove anything from their salt, and they also don't outsource the packaging and selling of their salt. Everything they do is handled by Redmonds themselves. Now on screen right now we have a nutrient comparison from Redmonds, Himalayan and Celtic salts. But one thing you do want to keep in mind, because you're on the carnivore diet, you're getting every nutrient and mineral you need in sufficient quantities, pending you're eating enough fatty meat. So this doesn't matter too much. Now my recommendation, and this is not sponsored at all, this is just my personal opinion, is Redmonds. It has no third-party handling. It has less microplastics because it comes from this underground mine. It has no added ingredients, and the trace minerals are just an added bonus. Now it may still have some microplastics due to the fact that it's packaged in plastic, but this will only be minuscule in comparison to how much you get from traditional sea salt. And then the second best option is probably the pink Himalayan salt, again for mostly the same reasons, but make sure you check the ingredients on the back of your packaging. As discussed earlier, if a third party's handled it, they may add one of these anti-caking agents or dextrose to it. And then Celtic sea salt is better than traditional sea salt. In my opinion, you should try to avoid regular sea salt if possible, but to tell you the truth, it's not the end of the world, and for 99.99% of people, you will not notice any effects from it. But obviously, in an ideal world, we don't want to be consuming these microplastics, we don't want to be consuming this bleach, and we definitely don't want those added ingredients. Anyway, I hope that helps. Subscribe if you want to see more carnivore videos like this, and the other day I made a video which breaks down the types of people who should avoid coffee on the carnivore diet.